Hi, welcome. This review is about the Haunting of Bly Manor. Some of you may have heard of it, some of you may have not. This is basically kind of ish a prequel slash sequel, not really, and not really story wise, to the Haunting of Hill House. It is made by the same creators though, and it does have some of the same actors. It's kind of the same of American Horror Story, where you had another season and then it's like a different story, but you have to. It's made by the same creators and the same actors, right? Kind of like that. The Haunting of Bly Manor is about a rich uncle who hires a nanny to take care of his two nephews, a boy and a girl. And these boy and a girl, they live on a property at the house Bly Manor, and it is about that the boy and the girl, they lost their parents, and some other weird shit also happened on that property. So this nanny is kind of introduced to that story. She gets there and she gets to know the children and the people who work there, like the chef on that property, and then she starts realizing that something is off, and like every horror story, paranormal shit starts happening, and that's what the basics of this show is about. But yeah, let's jump into it. If you hear some weird construction noise in the background, well, they're constructing something, so yeah, I'm sorry for that. So the story. The story is probably the biggest thing of the show, just like any other show slash movie. But yeah, the story is probably the biggest flaw of not. It's not the biggest flaw. I'll get into that later, but it definitely has some bad factors to it, and it also has some very good factors to it. To start up with, one of the bad factors is the beginning slash entrance of the show is kind of shit. And probably the reason why I don't hear many people talking about this show is because the first three episodes are kind of, you have to push through it. It's not very good. And that's mostly because the main actor, Danny, is ass. She's goddamn annoying the whole fucking show, and she's like the main character for the first three episodes, and I hate it. The first three episodes are also boring because like almost no background is explained yet. It is important because like main elements are thrown in already that are going to be important later. Everyone is kind of introduced to the story, but for 3 hours long of an introduction and with kind of no build up is kind of annoying. So that's probably what you'll see in my grade later, why it's not really that high, is just because the first three episodes are very kind of disappointing. They are still fine, but they aren't very good either. And again, the main actor kind of ruins it. Don't get me wrong, the actor itself is fine. She's great. She's a very good actor actually, and she's wonderful. But I think two things. First, the main character herself is horrible. The main character, I feel like the main actor had almost nothing to work with that character, and that's kind of like annoying because the main character has to be very important, especially in a story driven show. And the main character doesn't do shit. She's just annoying. She's hysterical all the time. She has almost no importance throughout the whole show. And probably the most annoying part is that she is fucking dumb. She like so many scenes she does nothing. She adds nothing to the fire basically, and she's just not an important character, which is annoying because you follow her through the story. And what they could have done, which I think would be a lot smarter, is either just leave the main character out completely and just go for, you know, like a personal main character look, where the main character doesn't really have a story, but you just experience everything that the main character does, like you are your own main character into the show. That would have been so much better, and then they could focus on other backstories that would be way more important. But now the main character just kind of feels like a waste of time, and especially the ending, which I get to in a little bit later, kind of makes it ruined for that reason. Big, it's also a problem that the middle of the show makes that way, or it's not a problem actually, but the middle of the show makes this way better, because in the middle of the show they actually start, well, explaining the main character of explaining the side characters and talking less about main character, which is already great. But also you get to learn way more about the side characters, which is great because, well, the side characters are way more fucking interesting than the main character. The side characters are kind of what drive this whole story actually, and what the whole show is about. So I do feel like they went a little bit, or tried to went a little bit, with the main character, and kind of you are the main character and you just experience everything through her look. I don't know what it's exactly called, but yeah. But even then, the middle makes up for it basically. But it is annoying that 1/3 of the show is kind of ass. But yeah, it starts getting good at episode 4. That's what I'm trying to say. Then it gets very good. They talk about the backgrounds, all the side characters, and it also really shows that you can see that the other side actors really try in this show, and it's very good to see. The acting is fantastic, which I'll get into a little bit later, but yeah. And the ending, the ending is, I won't spoil too much. It's interesting. I think some people may like it, some people may not. To not spoil too much, but to actually do talk about it, the ending has to do with the main character, and it's kind of hard to talk about this show because the show is very story driven. That's why you probably hear me talking weird, because I can't really spoil anything, because I do want people to watch this because it's very good. But the ending is kind of about the main character, and I didn't really like that, because you get all this build up for other characters, and then at the end it's just about the main character again, and you just realize, oh yeah, this dumb hoe was in this story, and it's annoying. And it's also annoying to see because, again, I said it many times, the main actor for the main character is very goddamn good, and it's kind of annoying that she's just wasted away into this just shitty character that's just annoying. But yeah, the cinematography of this show is interesting. It's kind of average, but it does have some interesting shots. They weirdly work a lot with mirrors. I don't know why that is, but it's kind of cool. There are some shots over the shoulders of characters, which are kind of cool. They have some long shots that kind of look over the property of Bly Manor, which I think is really cool and really adds some atmosphere. They have some very dark shots as well, which is kind of nice. But overall, it's kind of normal. The only thing that is, I think, very interesting, I guess, but I don't think in a good way, is that they use a filter throughout the whole show, and it's kind of not really that big of a thing. It's not really that big of a deal, but you'll maybe have to get used to it a little bit. Like if you watch a normal movie and then you start watching the show, you probably have to get used to it, at least for the first 3 episodes or something. I personally really hate the filter. That's my only bad thing about the cinematography, because I think the cinematography, again, what I said is already, it's like it's kind of average, but it does really blend well with the horror. But the filter on it makes everything such, I don't know what it's called, like bloomy or gloomy kind of. And it also fucks weirdly with the Netflix resolution, which is kind of annoying. Actually, it's very annoying. This filter also, I get why they did it, because with the filter they get to kind of tweak the image a little bit and make sure that you see things in the background way more clearer, which is kind of cool on concept. But it also kind of feels like in your face, like, ooh, you see that someone's walking in the background, you see that, and it's kind of annoying. Like in the original Haunting of Hill House, there were like a lot of enemies. Like you really need to focus while you're watching this show, and it's the same with Haunting of Hill House, of course. But in Haunting of Hill House, you just see little background things, but they don't just rub it in your face. It's kind of just there, and then you're like, oh hey, look at me, I'm so smart, I saw that. But in this show, they also do that, but they really rub it in your face. They even give like 10 seconds to like, oh, you see it, and it's kind of annoying. And this filter really focuses on that. They kind of light up things in the background. And that's also a reason why I don't like the filter, but again, it also makes the resolution look weird and something. So do keep that in mind while you're watching this show. That it does look a bit weird. You'll get used to it eventually though. It's fine, but it is kind of annoying a little bit. Next up is editing, and to be very honest, it's horrible. It's so bad. This show is great. Again, like I said, I'll get into it at the end, but this show is great, and probably the only thing really, like, there obviously are some flaws, but really pulling it back is the editing. It's so bad. First off is awkward line delivery. You can definitely see, and I'll get into that later, the actors are great, but like, oh my god, There is like this scene. I won't spoil too much of something, but like there's this little scene where uh the um, the nanny talks with the girl, the child basically, and the child is in the bathtub and she's talking to her, and this like kind of feels like you're like you're playing Oblivion or like Skyrim or something. The actors are like you can see they're doing great, but the awkward cutting between lines feels so off. You have like it's like someone saying hello, oh how are you, well I'm great, what's that, oh that's very cool. Like it feels so fake, like robotic or something. And it's only a few times that it really happens, but it really fucks the story a lot because it's only a few times, but you know you're kind of in the groove of the story and you're kind of like, oh this is vibing, and then you get like this most awkward line delivery and you're like, wait what. It doesn't happen that much often, but it is annoying, and overall it's kind of little, but again the editing you can like kind of assume is for the main problem, because there are a lot of little problems but they all have to do with the editing, which leads to my next thing: weird cuts. This movie has some really weird cuts. Not that much, only a few, again just like the bad line delivery, but it's kind of distracting sometimes. Like you have like this scene and it's like, oh okay cool, and then it just immediately cuts. It's like you're watching Avatar the Last Airbender where it just it just completely fades out. Like actually they do that one time, I think, maybe even more, and it's kind of again it makes the movie a little bit awkward, I feel like, or the show a little bit awkward, and it feels kind of like low rank. And it's the same thing with the story, and this is actually a big flaw, and probably the biggest flaw of editing, and also therefore the biggest flaw of the entire show, because the editing is the biggest flaw, but this is the biggest flaw of the editing basically. And that is how the story is set. And technically this is maybe also a story problem, but the thing is the story is pretty good, but it's so confusing because some edits could have been done differently. Like if they put some backgrounds and they explain it way earlier, if they did like this all the scenes with the nanny and just spread them out instead of just being the first 3 episodes all about the nanny and being goddamn boring, it would have been so much better. And it's very annoying because they could have just edited that, and it really sucks because so much better explanation could have been said like in just throughout the whole show. And it's so annoying because the show is also like a puzzle piece, so it's also like on purpose confusing, but like some of this shit is like confusing on an annoying side. Like it's just like you could have just explained this so much better, and it's kind of annoying. And then also kind of fucks with the ending because it doesn't really feel like a reward, like you know with all those puzzle shows, and at the end you're like, oh my god I get it, but here you don't really have that vibe, because like at the ending you're kind of still a little bit confused and everything is explained so weirdly throughout the story. And it's very annoying because this show could have been so much better if they just like did the story timeline right, and they didn't, and it sucks. It's annoying, but yeah. So basically, again, like I already said, but I'll say that at the ending, the editing is probably like the only really big problem with this story. It really sucks. It's kind of annoying, but yeah. Let's jump into music. The music is fine. It's they even have some songs from the old Haunting of Hill House show or series, which is pretty cool. I do have one flaw, and it's I guess also really has to do with the editing again, maybe because they could have just not added that music there. But the music is sometimes used where it shouldn't have been used. There are some creepy scenes and they would have been so much better if there just wasn't any music, because then you just had these eerie noises, but then they play like the saddest music, and it's annoying. The show would have been just more creepy, but to be honest, it's really nothing. It's not really a big deal. It's only like 2 or 3 scenes where I had this problem, and it's even then it isn't really a problem. It's a flaw. It's just a bit annoying, but for the rest the music works very well with the story. And yeah. Acting is not the best thing about this show, but the only thing where I can say there are literally no flaws. The acting is perfect. It's 100%. Mwah. It's very good. They like American Horror Story, what I said earlier, like where you have like different scenes of different seasons, and they kind of have some of the same actors, but they play different roles. Here's the same thing. They have some actors from Haunting of Hill House into this show as well, and they play different roles, and it works very well. It's very cool to see also, because like you see the same actors playing completely different roles, except maybe the nanny's role is kind of the same, but yeah. And it's very cool to see. It's very fun because you can really see that these actors really, they try to do all their best. Like even some of them throughout the show had to use accents, with did come over a little bit weird a few times, but nothing too much. But like it's so cool to see, like Luke, for example, in the Haunting of Hill House. I forgot his name here, but here plays a more Irish businessman, and you can really see he's really trying with his role, and it's very cool to see. It's very fun. You can really see that everyone in this show had a lot of fun with their characters, and that's very cool to see. So the acting is very good, and something I really really like is they have good kid actors, and this is so great. There are so many horror movies where like the kids are like, oh my god, it's haunted, but the kid actors are just so goddamn horrible, and it just really fucking sucks. Not this show though. This show, the kid actors are so good, and it's just also great because a lot of focus is on the kids, so that's very good. It's very nice. Yeah, I don't have more to say. The acting is just very very mwah. It's very good. So overall, to my final rating, I give this show an 8 out of 10. It just works. Like, it's good. It's good. Like I tone it down 2 whole points, probably just because the editing is so goddamn horrible. But for the rest, like I know I kind of shit talked on this show, but that's kind of what I like. What you do in reviews, you kind of more talk about the bad qualities, but it's very important to also acknowledge the good qualities. This show is good. It's very underrated. Like I don't know why not more people are talking about it. Same goes for Hill House, but yeah, Hill House. But I'll talk about that in the Hill House review. But this is so underrated, and it annoys me so much. Actually, no, I'm gonna talk about Hill House because I also talked that in that review. But the thing is that Hill House and this show are probably the best horror shows I have seen, and it sucks so much that like from the horror community I almost hear nothing from these shows. It's so good. Like I have heard people talk about, oh my god, the Megan movie is so cool, and oh my god, it is so scary, and you have like these the most shit ass horror movies, and you have something that's super good, and then nobody talks about it. Like goddamn, okay, come on people, more people need to watch this show, and that's why I also recommend it to almost everyone, because it just has a very good story. It's almost not even like it's horror, but the same goes for Hill House. The horror is kind of in the family and in the thriller and the mystery. It's not like there aren't even that many jump scares. Maybe at the end a little bit more, but it's kind of the horror is more the setting and all that shit, and I love that so much. So even people who aren't really that much to horror but more into detectives even probably will like this show. It's very mysterious, and it's kind of a puzzle piece, putting everything together, and at the end realizing, goddamn, even though the ending might not be that good, some people probably will still like it, and everyone would still like the whole show entirely, probably. So yeah, I give this an 8 out of 10. It's very rock solid. It's very good. So that's my rating. This was my review on The Haunting of Bly Manor. Again, like I said many many times, I'm definitely also gonna do a review on The Haunting of Hill House. I don't know when yet. I still have to rewatch that. I'll probably do that with my friends. But yeah, hope you guys like this review. Leave a like if you liked it. If you don't, piss off.